Hi there. So I've got the graveyard shift, it seems, so I'll try to keep this short and on time. What I'd like to start off with is our sponsors here. So we're on site attending the CloudFest festival with our great partners called Roche, and who directly outside this stage. So do visit their stand, and there's a couple of things you want to note there. We've got our HAMR technology showcase there. We've got the dual actuator drives on site, and they'll be able to show you these new technologies that we've launched recently. So do feel free to pop in. Obviously, at this time of the night or evening, I think what I'm preventing you from going for a beer, I guess. So let's keep it short. One of the things that is going to happen by at least 2025 is the explosion in hard disk drive sales. And what we feel is by the 2025, 80% of all hard disks will still be out there in terms of utilized for storage. Flash, NAND flash is still, we're seeing massive growth in NAND flash, but you'll see it slowly creeping up. What's stopping us from selling huge quantities of NAND flash is a couple of things. One is obviously the pricing. The other is the reliability as well. And we're seeing that hard disk drives are continuing that growth, aggressive growth. So again, by 2025, 80% of all storage will still consist of hard disk drives. Okay? Now, one thing you've got to also consider is the cycles that we're going through at the moment. Over the last 5 to 7 years, we've seen a transition from endpoint storage to cloud storage. And that's driven by what I'm about to do right now. So, this is not only a selfie, but I need to do one for my family, right? I need to take a picture and tell them that this is what I'm doing. Now, this is typical of teenagers and kids out there. I'd like to think I'm a teenager still, but this is what they'll tend to do. Every day, my kids are taking at least 10 to 20 images and uploading it to the cloud. Guess what? That's driving the storage requirements. So, you'll see the endpoint are devices like this, Apple, iPods, even TVs, and phones and systems. In terms of what you have, there's new exercise devices, these bikes, automated bikes, and so on and so forth. They're all driving storage, huge amount of storage requirements. One thing I'd urge you to consider is how all of this is being transferred to the cloud, and think about the security on its route towards the cloud, okay? So, in terms of bringing it all together, in terms of device physics, there's a lot to consider about the devices in terms of the security of these devices, in terms of the tiering of it, the durability of the media as well, and also the power optimization. I've come from a background of data center management and development. So in terms of data flow, think about the connectivity. Within a data center environment, we over here are considering predominantly the hard disk and storage space. Think about the connectivity and how it's all connected together, the power supply to these devices as well, the spacing and the cooling. And within a data center, you've got to consider within the stack, the airflow and the airflow management as well. You see, in terms of the storage is just one part of the entire solution. What we provide at Seagate is just one part of it. The rest of it, in terms of the optimized space, is the rest of the infrastructure that we've got to consider, from the basic cabling infrastructure, layer 1 infrastructure that is, cabling from fiber all the way up to how the space is optimized and cooled and monitored as well. And lastly, data security is paramount. We've got a ton of endpoint devices, from phones and so on and so forth. All of them are vulnerable to attacks, okay? So from my perspective, especially from Seagate and from an enterprise perspective, we're building that solution, that security device and security portfolio into all of our drives. Now, stepping back a bit, on a day-to-day basis, I'm considering, at least for my business within Seagate, which is the enterprise hard disk space, how do I manage this? How do I manage the growth of this and to ensure our customers and partners are supported, right? So what we don't want to do is not meet the demand. And trying to plan for a business that's growing 30% year on year is a bit of a struggle. Now, I'll give you a bit of insight. We've got the following technologies coming out, right? HAMR and the dual actuators coming out very shortly. We're about to launch the 16 terabyte drives, and we're shipping the 14 currently. And over the next, I would say, 6 to 9 months, we'll be launching the 18 and beyond using our new HAMR technology. So I'm building that into the supply chain, into my business, and I'm trying to also figure out how we're going to grow 30+% year on year. So that's a challenge that I'm happily working with partners, our distribution partners, and partners like yourself to meet. The consideration for me and from our organization is trying to position the higher capacity solutions, 14, 16, and beyond, and 18 and beyond. So what I'd ask you to do is, in terms of space optimization, in terms of the consumption of electricity, basic points like that, electricity and space, consider as you build your systems and put together an offering to your end user customers, consider the space, consider the electricity consumption, and also consider the benefits that our new technology, HAMR drives, can provide you and your customers. As we go up as we sell greater, the bigger capacity drives, technology costs drop. So for us at Seagate, obviously we want to make more revenue. We want to have a greater amount of revenue, but we're also seeing huge amounts of volume of shipments of drives. So to give you a great point, a great positioning statement, this time last year, an average ASP was in the region of $250, $260. Today, our ASP has dropped to $240. Okay? However, the amount of drives that's being shipped, in terms of quantities, has increased by 30%. So that's being offset, right? So I, as a business manager, trying to manage this, trying to manage the aggressive growth, and also trying to manage the capacities that we're selling here. So in terms of the production of the 20+ terabytes of drives, that's coming next year. And we'll be starting to evaluate that with our key customers over the next 6 to 9 months. That's not a forward-looking statement. It's just that this is how we plan for our business. So for example, 16 terabyte drives, we're already evaluating that with our key customers at around December, January period of this year, and last year, December. Now, if you want to have a look at HAMR again, it's out there, just about 2 meters away from the front door over there. So go take a look at it, please. Now, as I positioned earlier, we're slowly seeing the increased production of these greater capacity drives. And for us, as a manufacturer, we're really challenged with ensuring that we meet our customers' needs, but also challenged with the space that's available and the budgets that are available out there in the marketplace. So for me, and the challenge that's coming back from us is obviously competitors, and also what our cloud customers are informing us about. And they're predominantly saying that space is a key concern. So the more technology and the greater capacity we can put onto a drive, the better it is for all concerned, okay? So again, a couple of key things. The dual actuator is coming out in terms of, we've already showcased that with our key customers and key partners, and let me step aside. And what we're trying to do is to start getting that into shipments as early as this year. So keep a lookout for it, and pricing will come out very shortly. When we've created a roadmap that we're sharing with you right now in terms of where we believe the capacities will be in terms of drive shipments over the next 6 to 9 months. So now, a key concern for us is about the endpoint security. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the devices that our kids have and what we use as well tend to be unsecure or secure in terms of the iOS devices that there currently is at the moment. Now, you've got to also consider how we as a vendor and the OEM partners that we work with, in some cases, isolate the storage devices away from the internet, the greater internet curse, let's just say. Now, if there is a way of creating a moat around the storage solutions, that's an ideal situation, right? However, we have to have it open and connected to the worldwide net and to your endpoint devices. So each of our drives contain security, endpoint security, FIPS, for example, that will enable security to be embedded. Okay? So Seagate will continue to invest in this space and continue to work with developers and API companies and endpoint device companies as well to secure our technology here. The call to action is a couple of folds. One is consider about connectivity, the ecosystem, and connectivity that you as manufacturers are pulling together. So we need to collaborate more. And by that, I mean we're happy to work with you with the drives that we have so that you can bring it all together. You can develop these endpoint security solutions. So in that, what I'm asking for is greater collaboration between all concerned. The other is think about the form factors and the space available for your storage needs within a server or within a rack. We've got to also consider about how we're, as a company, accelerating the density deployments and I/O terabyte solutions as well. So Seagate will continue to invest in this and provide you with reference architecture so that you can use this for your customers. And lastly, Seagate will commit to study and contribute to learning. And by that, what I mean is we have many development and training sessions for our partners, and we have a huge amount of content on our websites where you're able to download the content and use it for your own training and development needs. Okay? Now, coming back to what I did earlier, there is a massive explosion out there in the requirements for storage. Our kids are fueling it, funny enough, and that's one part of this segment, one part of the community that we serve. So every day, and here's a brilliant insight. Every day, I probably take about 20 to 30 images. That goes onto the cloud. My kids probably do the same. I have 2 kids. So you can think about it like this. I produce 30 to 40 megabytes of images, and it goes onto the cloud, right? And my kids do the same. So as a family, we're probably pulling together or uploading onto the cloud greater than 500 to 600 megabytes of data on a monthly basis. That's just photography. What about work and workflow and Excel files and PowerPoint presentations? Today alone, I must have received about 2 gigs worth of PowerPoint presentations. Okay. So all of this is fueling the great demand for drive capacity. And for us, we're trying to meet that and serve yourselves as a better vendor, supplier, OEM partnership. A couple of things that we've got to also consider going forward, and I've already mentioned this a number of times, is security is a key thing for us to equip yourselves with, and we've got a number of white papers to provide you and give you insight into the endpoint security and optimized solutions for the drives. Secondly, we've got a number of great cloud customers who we have I would guess a white paper and case study that you can benefit from. So please catch me outside later on today or even tomorrow, and I'll provide you with some of those white papers. And lastly, and also what's important to us and to our community is to make sure that we are able to serve your needs for the drives that we manufacture. So as a challenge for a business manager like myself is putting together the forecasting and then ensuring that we have the right production in place to serve our customers' needs. So so for me, in terms of planning for our 14 and 16 terabyte volume sales, I need more insight into what's happening out there within our partner community, and that, from a sales perspective, is coming back to me on a daily basis. But if partners come back to us and say, we're opting for, instead of 10, we're opting for 12, 14, and 16, because of the following reasons, that can help me put into production more volume of the 14 and 16s. There's, stepping back a bit again, and I'm thinking to myself, how do we drive our demand and how do we drive our reliability forward as well with our key partners? Now, we've got a number of evaluation drives out there in the marketplace, and we'll soon be deploying the HAMR evaluation drives out there to our OEM partners. So do approach us. Let us know if you're interested in evaluating those type of drives over the next 3 to 6 months, and we'll ensure that we have them in place within our CTS technical teams. Okay? And lastly, looking at the time, I don't want to stop you from going after your beer and enjoying the rest of the evening, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to ask you a number of questions here. Firstly, there's, I think over the last 30 to 40 years, Seagate has developed and launched a number of hard disk drives into the market space. The question for you is, can you guess how many billion drives that we've sold so far? And what percentage of that is still in use today? Anyone will hazard to take a guess on how many drives we've sold into the market space? Go for it. Sorry, I can't hear you. 25 billion? 2 to 5, okay. So the actual quantity is we've sold in excess of 3 billion drives into the market space. So pretty close, okay? Now, by 2025, we think 80% of the drives in the market will be hard disk drives, actually. We will still, I know there's a huge upswing and migration onto NAND, flash, but 80% of that storage in the market will still be hard disk drives. At the moment, we haven't seen the leap into, or the huge transition to NAND flash just yet, but we see that slowly evolving. And put it this way, about 5% to 7% of our volume at the moment, oops, bless you, 5% to 7% of our volume at the moment is NAND flash. And we expect that to grow exponentially over the next probably about 6 to 10 months. So this time next year, I expect that to be probably in the region of about 10 to 12%. Okay. Now, there is still that, I guess, that curve and that point, that inflection point, where NAND flash hasn't taken over from mission-critical type drives yet. And it's due to pricing and price point. So at the moment, let's put it this way in terms of market sizing and space. In the EMEA region, we expect there to be around 30 to 35,000 drives, mission-critical type drives on a quarterly basis. That's the size of the market here in EMEA. That's all the way from 800 gig all the way up to 2.4 gig type drives. So these are intense, heavy-duty, mission-critical type. That's what we call high-capacity drives. High workhorses of probably of the finance industry as well. They buy huge volumes of these drives. But we'll see that trailing off as pricing for the NAND flash drops. And that point yet probably we may not meet for another at least 10 to 18 months. Okay? So at the moment, our mission-critical type drives are perhaps performing pretty well in the market. We're second to none. I think HGST is out there. HGST has come out from the market, and Toshiba is still remaining in the market. So we're one of 2 manufacturers there for a mission-critical perspective. And therefore, our performance is pretty decent, but we'll see that tailing off as NAND pricing drops to a level which will be probably in 12 to 18 months. The other key component to consider is the situation with respect to the consolidation in the market, right? So as from a Seagate perspective, we're watching the space, we're watching what's happening in the NAND market, NAND flash market, and we're seeing what the other players are doing, and we're investing heavily into this space as well. So we're coming up with a new variant of our NAND flash solution as early as next quarter, whilst we're watching what's happening with the major players in the market. As you know, the NAND flash part of the market has almost 10 to 12 different manufacturers in there. So it's kind of disparate. Whereas the hard disk space has probably 3 to 4 key manufacturers in there. So the market will consolidate, we believe, and you'll see pricing come down on the NAND flash over the next 10 to 12 months. Lastly, here's another question for you. And I've already asked this question right from the very beginning. 80%, by 2020, 80% of the hard disk drive market, of the storage market will consist of hard disk drives, right? We believe 10 to 12% will be flash, but what's the remaining? Does anyone know? That's right, tapes, I heard it. Yeah, so believe it or not, tapes is still an efficient method of storage, and that's still pretty aggressive in the market, and it's working pretty well. So, cut a long story short, time for beer, I think, or maybe there's another session going on straight after this. But does anyone have any questions with regards to some of Seagate's technology? So I have a trusted colleague somewhere here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Could we please have a big round of applause for Mohan Kandasamy?
Thank you.